Hey everybody, welcome to the special edition, the video version of the Dirty Lazy Girl podcast. I'm Stephanie Laska, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey everyone, I'm Tamara Sneezek, Professor of Sociology and Stephanie's co-host.
Welcome to the Dirty Lazy Girl podcast, everybody. If you're not listening here on YouTube, you can also listen just the audio version on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or on my website, dirtylazyketo.com. Thanks for joining us. Lately, I have been making some big excuses to myself about nighttime eating. Those old messages that I have been fighting have been coming back. Stuff like, oh, Stephanie, you can have just one. They're like creeping back into my brain. So Tamara, I have been testing out a lot of recipes for my new cookbook. Oh, and there's so much good food in my fridge right now. Like there's this Tupperware of fudge. Oh, I was kind of hiding it from my family. And I keep thinking about it. And it says to me, you can have a one bite, go ahead. And it's after dinner. But okay, this is what's happening. I'm going to be honest. I tell myself I can have one little bite of fudge. But then I eat like 6 or 7 pieces. And then I don't, here's the thing. I don't like the way this is headed. I'm going to throw that damn fudge away right now. And I want to get started talking about nighttime eating, Tamara.
And we need to, because it's really hard for me. Like I do really good during the day. And it's nighttime that just, I don't know, my willpower just through the roof. But I actually did some reading on this, and Psychology Today had a whole issue on it. And they said it's the hardest for everyone. You know why?
No, I don't. Please tell me.
There's a couple of reasons. One, you're tired. And it's easier to resist things when you're fresh in the morning. And so the tiredness interferes with our willpower. And also you tend to feel your stress at night. And I know I do, because like during the day, you're busy and distracted. So you're not thinking about all the things you have to do tomorrow and all the stresses of the day. And what happens is you come home, and then at night, all of a sudden those stresses you're all of a sudden thinking about all that stress. So you're more stressed at night. You're more tired at night. We also have certain habits at night, like you watch TV and you have a bowl of popcorn. It's like this thing, like I grew up on that. So I've got this habit formed. And then finally, they said it's also genetic, because I know, isn't that weird? I guess apparently your body knows that while you're at sleep, there's like 8-10 hours of fasting. So your body recognizes that. So it will try to store up food to make it through the fast.
So basically I'm like one of those bears that's like hiding in the cave, trying to eat a few more bites of chocolate just to get me through the night.
That's right. Your body's worried it won't have enough food for the night. So it's not entirely our fault. It happens to everyone because of the nature of our, society.
I do actually, I appreciate that, because sometimes knowing the genetic reason behind stuff makes me feel a little better. Because really, I think what the problem is, Tamara, and I think that's why nighttime eating is so important to talk about, is that it's not the eating that's the issue. For me, it's really the shame that we feel, the blame that we feel, and then the guilt. And for me, when I start feeling shame, blame, and guilt, I start going off the rails.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. I think I can do it, but when I fail, I get all in that trap of shame.
Yeah. And that's where things go wrong. Because, you start feeling like, oh, all hell broke loose. I had one piece. I might as well have 50 pieces, and then get onto the chips, and then the this and the that and whatever. Yeah. So we've all been there. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we going to do about it, Tamara? Because I know we can all identify, every single person listening has had that time where they're eating too much at night, and then they're just feeling like crap about themselves, and they want to make a change. Yeah. So how can we help them? What's our Dirty Lazy Girl approach?
Well, Stephanie, we have a 3-tier approach.
A 3-tier approach.
A 3-tier approach. Okay. Tier number 1, diagnose the problem. So figure out what are the causes. Okay. As we've already mentioned a bunch of them, but you have to figure out what's your cause. Then in total, second tier is the total dirty, lazy girl. Slap a Band-Aid on it.
Slap a Band-Aid on it, girlfriend.
Find a temporary solution. Like anything goes, whatever works. And then our third tier is do both at the same time. Constantly. You can't just stop. So let's take a quick break before we dive into it, Stephanie.
All right, Tamara. Well, today's episode is brought to you by the new Dirty Lazy Keto. Get started losing weight while breaking all the rules. And also the newest book to the family, which is the Dirt Cheap Cookbook. Lots of great options to support our listeners while they're trying to figure out this weight loss riddle.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, let's get started with tier number one.
Tier number one.
Diagnosing the problem. Okay, so what are some different diagnoses? What are some causes that people might be struggling with that, beyond what we already mentioned?
Well, this one has been resonating with me now that it's summertime. What time we're eating dinner. It's like so obvious. Like for me, my husband, he wants to eat dinner the second he gets off work. It's like 5:01 and he's like, okay, let's eat. But the rest of us, including me, we're not hungry at 5:01. In fact, we'd prefer to eat dinner now that it's, pretty light into the later evening. We'd prefer to eat a little bit later at night. And for me, that's been helpful because then I stop eating so much after dinner. I don't know. Does that affect you about what time you eat dinner?
Yes, I can't eat too late though. So if I eat too late, I'm so hungry by the time I eat that I overeat. So for me, I'm actually a little bit better a little earlier, because then I feel good, and then I'm not just ravished from like 6 on for those till bedtime, which is like 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, so for me, earlier is better, but like I said, you have to diagnose yourself because it depends on
Yeah. So it sounds like what time we eat, though, has a big effect on both of us.
Yes.
No matter what there is no magic time. We're not trying to tell our listeners that, but we're saying what time you eat does make a big difference on if you might be snacking later.
Yeah. So that's the first thing to look at is when are you eating, and are you getting too hungry and overeating when you eat too late, or are you eating too early and then you find yourself starving 3 hours? Yeah.
Well, our second approach we want our listeners to take a look at is actually what you're eating for dinner. I think sometimes we're hungry later because of what we're actually eating earlier. And what I mean by that, Tamara, is to take a look at your dinner and say to yourself, am I eating the right amount of carbs, protein, fat, fiber, veggies for what's right for you?
Yeah. And I find if I eat too many carbs, that actually makes me hungrier. So I try to, if I have any carbs, I try to have it earlier in the day. So for me, saving, eating the more protein and the veggies at night, which have some carbs, but if I save my carbs as veggies at night, I do a lot better. Like I feel less hungry at night. So yeah, like what works, what are you eating? Don't forget to analyze that, because that can make a bigger difference too.
Totally. I'm with you on that one, sister.
Well, another
third approach. Yeah.
Well, another factor is it paired with other activities like you're eating at night? Like what are you? That's like what you need to take a look at. What are you doing while you're eating?
Yeah, I know. Like you mentioned, eating while watching television, that can be a paired activity. If this is something you're trying to work on, it's pretty easy to just snap that pair in half. It's like, okay, well, if watching TV triggers the nighttime eating, then turn off the TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Or watch your TV in a different room. That could be another strategy. Like instead of watching TV in your living room, watch it on an iPad upstairs or in another room of the house. Just breaking that pairing strategy can be very effective.
Yeah. And well, I think we do this say this later, but substitute something else for TV or save your snack, right? A healthier snack. So that'd be part of what you eat, but pairing it with something that you normally eat, which is for me is while watching TV. Yeah. And that's the mindless eating. Same with talking on the phone. You're just putting in and not realizing that you're eating.
Well, we have to figure out how to diagnose this problem, right? I mean, it's not like an easy thing to do, and it can be many things. Like for me, I know a lot of my nighttime eating, it was just a habit. Like I wasn't even hungry, but it's like, okay, it's after dinner. Time for my blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
For me, that was just a habit that I really had to work on. Do you have any habits like that?
Eating.
I know. We're like, and more eating, because that's what we like to do. We are official eaters.
Yeah, I get a sweet tooth, and I think it's just out of habit, I've associated sweet with nighttime. So I mean, how do we change that habit? Like, what can we do, like either modify the habit or get rid of the habit?
Yeah, I'm going to vote for not getting rid of the habit. I actually might be very controversial about that. I know in our addiction episode, I approached this topic, but honestly, like I'm too old. I'm not going to be changing any habits that I have at this age. And I don't really want to. I feel like the substitute method is going to be much more effective for me. And it's going to make me feel like I'm accomplishing something. I know we said the 3-tiered approach, but I'm going to slap a Band-Aid on this one until I can really get to the root of the issue. Because I know my habit is probably not going to change too fast. That's too hard.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of if you wanted to change a habit was maybe brush your teeth earlier in the evening so that you won't eat because you're like, oh, I brushed my teeth, and that kind of breaks up the habit.
Well, that's definitely like a new habit, right? Because you're like, instead of eating at night, you might clean your teeth or your gums or chew on toothpicks or whatever it is. That's a different habit that you could substitute. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, another underlying cause you can look at is it masking something else? Like,
ooh,
I know.
You're getting all woo on me, Tamara. I knew you were going to do this. I knew it. I knew it.
Because, okay, we already mentioned it could be masking stress. It will be masking stress because according to Psychology Today, you're feeling it at night. But it could be other things. Like, what other emotions could we be struggling with at night?
Well, for me, Tamara, I know my nighttime eating has a lot to do with I'm tired and I want to wind down. So for me, when I do the nighttime snacking, it's my way of kind of relaxing.
Yeah, me too. And I think I feel it more at night because I've slowed down, but also I've got my kids demanding a lot when we come home at night. They want my attention. And so for me too, I get this overwhelmed feeling, like I overwhelmingly need to have a break, and then a lot more demands on me. And that's a lot to deal with. And I sometimes turn to food. So I know it's masking overwhelm, stress, a need to just,
I think just knowing that is huge.
Just knowing it.
It's not like you have to do anything. I think just knowing what's going on is the first step.
Yeah. Yeah.
For both of us. And for anyone listening, it's like, well, what are you missing at that time? I've read so many notes on the Dirty Lazy Keto Facebook support group, and I've read about people that are laying in bed that will jump out of bed and go get food to eat. And it's like, well, what is the food giving you that you're feeling right then? Or what are you trying to avoid by going to get the food? Sometimes we have to really ask ourselves these hard questions. It's like, do you feel lonely? Do you feel sad? Are you feeling, depressed or worried? We've got to really just feel the feeling.
Yeah. And it's hard and it takes practice. Like I'm still not.
It's very hard. I'm super old and I have not got a grip on this one. I'm still working on it, Tamara. I'll be like literally 30 pieces of gum into my nighttime avoidance strategy before I realize I think I'm feeling a little stressed about something. I've had 30 pieces of gum all at once. Like, just not to be, making fun of myself, but honestly, like half the time I don't know what I'm feeling until much deep into the avoidance strategy.
Yeah. And for me, it manifests as hunger. Like at the time I'm like, oh, I'm starving, and I'm really not. It's these other things, and I'm still not perfect at it, but I'm slowly, when I'm like ravishingly hungry, I have to say, am I really?
Mm-hmm.
And then, and sometimes I still eat anyway, but at least I'm, it's a progress. It's a work in progress.
Well, as we've told our listeners, as dirty, lazy girls, we are works in progress. And, we don't have all the answers, but we definitely are coming up with some good strategies that they can think about, because we're practicing these ourselves and trying to improve. For me, I know I mentioned this in my intro about is the food that's upsetting me and causing me a lot of stress and grief and blame and shame, is that available in my house? So for me, Tamara, I have to have a little, pull on my big girl panties. Is that the expression? Like I have to pull up my big girl panties, and I have to admit to myself, I don't need this crap in my house. So if there's a food that's causing me a problem, like low carb ice cream or even low carb baked goods or sugar-free candy, whatever it is I'm getting into, really, do I need to have it in my house? No, I don't. I can throw it away. I'm an adult. I know where the garbage is located, and I can throw that crap away and have something that I feel happier about as a nighttime snack on hand.
Yeah. No, that's great. I had to quit buying nuts.
Oh yeah, nuts are
I'll just eat.
delicious.
I can't just eat five. I'll eat the whole can. So, and
I
if
feel you.
and if my family or husband wants them, I say fine, but eat them and then put them somewhere where I don't know where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, either throw it away, or hide it from yourself, or find an alternative,
Mm-hmm.
that you can have right there when you see it in the refrigerator. Like we said on the veggie episode, have your veggies right in the middle of the fridge, all cut up and ready to go, and make that what's available.
Well, I know having the veggies available could work for a lot of people. It's like a stressful, crunchy, kind of
Yeah.
you could eat a lot of it and not feel like bad about yourself.
Yeah.
For me, Tamara, my evening snack is not veggies because that would not do it for me. But I have my Jello, sugar-free Jello freeze every single night after
Yeah.
dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, you know, one of the causes we have on here is that you want just one, and you say to yourself, oh, I'm just going to have, one little, bad snack. But like you said, if you plan and you're more intentional about the snack of your choosing, and that makes it fun. Then during the day, you can say, oh, I'm going to have my Jello, sugar-free Jello little special dessert I make, and then you have it all ready, and then you get excited about it, and then you feel good about eating it. So really planning it and being intentional is a great idea.
And I've heard you suggest to me as well that you've kind of taken part of your dinner and maybe save that for later. So that
Yeah.
could be something that works.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, that too. And especially if I don't eat it all and I'm like, well, I can just have it later, and then it's like a little treat for later. And usually
Mm-hmm.
it's healthier. Dinner I'm good at, it's the snacking later.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to a really good strategy that I think a lot of listeners has become very popular lately. And, it's interpreted different ways, but it's known as the umbrella term as intermittent fasting. And a lot of people just call it IF. And that's basically where listeners, you would just create your own little cutoff time for eating, where you tell yourself, it's nothing, too fancy. It's nothing official, but you tell yourself, hey, after this particular time of day, I'm done altogether with eating. Is
That's a
that
great
something,
idea.
does that work
Yeah.
for you? Because I know it
No,
really works
it
for me.
doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't? I'm like, this is the only one that's
Well,
helped me, Tamara.
actually, no, you know what? I did a dirty lazy girl approach and modified it to make it work for me. Because yeah, I've tried, and I would be too starving in the morning, and I just felt too deprived. Like I would always say, I'm not going to eat after 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would beat myself up because I couldn't do it. So what I did was then made the time later.
Okay.
So I tried 8 o'clock, and I could do that. I still probably eat a little bit more than I want to at night, but I'm like, but I don't eat anything after 8.
So I
So
really like that. I mean, it sounds like you're breaking that blame shame cycle, right?
yeah,
By giving
yeah,
yourself IF is not, there is no window that's official. I get really irritated when I see that online. People say, oh, it has to be at 12:18 in the mid, and they have all these numbers. I'm like, no. IF is what you decide. This is
yeah,
what works for you. So if cutting off eating at 8 p.m., Tamara, is helping you reduce nighttime snacking and feel better about yourself, then that is what you should do, right?
yeah. Because why do something that I know I'm going to fail at? You
That's
know?
exactly right. This is all about you and feeling good about yourself. So
Yes.
if that is helping you with your lifestyle goals, then girl, you go for it.
And speaking of, one of the other kind of stumbling blocks is that sometimes we feel we deserve it at night. We deserve
Mm-hmm.
to eat at night. Like it's like self-care almost. Like, oh, I worked hard today. I deserve that brownie.
Well, Tamara, and you're the one that actually taught me all this stuff because I was no woo-woo before I met you. You're my woo-woo lady. But Tamara, I really suffered from this because for years, when I was very overweight, I had this thought process in my head, like, well, I deserve it. I worked hard. I did this. I skipped lunch. I had a salad, a dinner, meh. I did not deserve that one bit. I needed to really take a look at self-care and healthier ways that I could deserve, good feelings, like a bath or a walk or time by myself or buying a new book or painting my toenails. Like there's a million and one ways I can show myself self-love and care much more effectively than some stupid brownie.
Yeah, exactly. And what I tell myself, because if I'm saying, being like mean to myself and saying, no, brownie, you don't deserve it, I say to myself, you know what? Try to do something to feel good about myself first. And then if I still feel like I need a brownie, I can have it. So it's like a little mind game. But so what I'll do is I'll have my bath and maybe read a good book. And you know what? Usually the urgent need for a brownie does go away, especially if I don't put all that pressure on myself. So yeah, find a substitute way to feel cared for. And then if you still are starving, then listen to your body. But yeah, sometimes you just need to break the little cycle and try something else.
Well, everyone has different health goals. I think that's important to point out that our podcast is not just about weight loss. We're here to support all different types of lifestyles. And we want you to feel good about yourself so that you're making choices that support your health goals, that support the lifestyle you want to live.
Yeah. And nighttime is a stressful time for everyone. So it's about reducing the stress more so than it is the actual snacking, don't you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's really more about that self-talk, about the blame, that whole mindset. And that's what really we have to climb out of, because that's not going to help anybody do anything.
No. And listeners, I bet you have great ideas about how you feel at nighttime and how you manage those feelings and your snacking at night. So tell us your story by emailing Stephanie@dirtylazyketo.com or via Facebook or Instagram @dirtylazyketo. But before we get to our personal favorite hacks, let's take one last break.
Well, listeners, I know that if you are doing some nighttime snacking, you can find lots of great recipes in the Dirty Lazy Keto Dirt Cheap Cookbook. There's 100 recipes in here that are all 10 grams of net carbs or less. And whether you're trying to change the way you eat dinner so that you do less nighttime snacking, or you want to find just a lower carb nighttime snack that might fit into your daily macros, I know you'll enjoy this new cookbook. Check it out at dirtylazyketo.com/books.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do you have a hack you want to say first, Stephanie?
I love my hacks. This makes it so fun. I do. This is probably the highlight of my episode. So Tamara, I want to share with everybody my list. This is what I do. I have like a short list of acceptable foods that I allow myself to eat after dinner before I start my intermittent fasting window. And so, right after dinner, I usually treat myself to one of the following, and people are always like, well, what are they? So I'm going to tell you. Mine are hot cocoa, and I can make it myself or buy it from the store. And ironically, the non-fat hot cocoa has less carbs than sugar-free. Little tidbit. I also like bouillon cubes and hot water. I love the herbal tea by Celestial Seasonings. It's the sugar cookie. Oh, it's very sweet. I admitted to my crazy addiction to sugar-free gum, and I also love sugar-free Jell-O. And in particular, probably my number one go-to dessert is called the Strawberry Taco Bell Freeze. The recipe is from the Dirty Lazy Keto Cookbook. And I also have a short 2-minute video of how to make it on YouTube with all the directions and measurements. You can just Google it, Dirty Lazy Keto Jell-O, Stephanie Laska. I think it'll pop up. It's on the Simon & Schuster page.
Yeah.
But anyway, these treats, they all help me to relax. I feel good about myself when I eat them. I plan for them. I enjoy them, and they don't cause me any trouble.
Yeah, that Taco Bell freeze is really one to look forward to. It's yummy. My hack is something I learned just for researching this episode, looking at, okay, what are some strategies for nighttime eating? And there were a couple studies that I ran across, so I thought I'd share them with you. The first one is that in this one study, the people who ate dinner earlier tended to lose more weight. But of course, as for Stephanie, you kind of know this is a know yourself. You already know that that's not going to work for you, but it does for me. And another study, they found that people who drank a protein shake as their nighttime snack were less hungry and had more weight loss. Who knew? So, and I've tried that, and it does help. All that, like for me, again, all that protein, for whatever reason at night, tends to stave off the hunger for me a little better. This doesn't mean these solutions are going to work for everybody, but if you're struggling, it might be worth a try.
Listeners, late night snacking, it does not have to be your downfall. We want to remind you that you are in control and you get to make all the decisions. Just make them the ones that you're proud of, because that's really what is most important, feeling good about yourself and your health. Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie Laska, and I am one of the podcast hosts with my friend Tamara for Dirty Lazy Girl. Hey, if you're enjoying listening to our free podcast, would you do us the honor of leaving a review on Apple Podcasts? It makes a world of difference. I'm going to give you instructions how, okay? This is how it works. First of all, I'll say it really loudly into the microphone. On your iPhone, select the purple icon. Using the search tool, type in Dirty Lazy Girl. Click on the thumbnail to open it up. Scroll down until you see rating and reviews. Click on the number of stars you'd like to leave, hopefully 5. Scroll down and click leave a review. Type in your review and then hit OK. That's it. You're done. We really appreciate your support. Again, leave us a review, Dirty Lazy Girl, on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.